Snowmobiling, like any other sport, is not without risk of injury or even death. Throughout this video, you'll find safety messages to reduce the risk of severe injury or death.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Sledneck from Denver, Colorado at the Scientific Education and Research Institute. And I'm here with Mr. Ski and Mrs. Du. Ski Du today are our students that are going to help us look at the anatomy of the snowmobile. Hopefully by understanding the key elements of the anatomy of the snowmobile on their final exam today, you'll have a real understanding of how to enjoy your snowmobile in the backcountry, and you'll be able to really understand the performance measures and how this sophisticated machine will be your chariot through the mountains. So, Ms. Ski and Du, let's start off by taking a look at the snowmobile. Go ahead, rotate around, we'll do for the controls. Now as they rotate the snowmobile around, we're going to focus on some of the most important aspects, and we'll ask our friend Miss Du to kind of show us a few of the key elements. Miss Du, for your final exam, can you show us exactly where the throttle is on this Skidoo? All right, now, do you use it with your thumb? Correct. Now, we moved from the left to the right. What is the kill switch to turn the motor off? So up is running, and down is off. Fantastic. Now, how about the next bar in the middle? This is called the powder bar. When you want to move that machine over, you throw your body weight over like a Hobie catamaran and you put your weight on it. Now if you put your left hand on there, Ms. Du, stand up on this side, put your right hand on the throttle and lean over to the side like you're controlling it. And that's throwing the body weight in the perfect ergonomics, as you can see right through here, that really helps hold her in the ideal position. Great. Now going left to right, show us exactly how you would heat your hands up on the hand warmers as this part. Perfect. This is high, good, and to low. Now how about the thumb warmers? High, perfect, and low. So far you're doing very well. Now let's assume the snowmobile, because this is a two-stroke snowmobile, a two-stroke snowmobile has the ability for the motor to run backwards. And for the motor to run backwards, you can therefore run the machine in reverse. So when the motor is going and it's started, how would you then turn the motor to go into reverse? Fantastic. You push that, the motor comes down to almost 0 RPMs and then comes back up running in reverse. Now when you want to go forward again, Ms. Du, how do you do that? Fantastic. And then all of a sudden the motor will now be not beeping and it will allow it to go in a forward position. Now let's finish with the last couple of controls on the very front. How about the tethered cord? Correct. You hook this to your body, and when you fall off, it stops the motor. This is a computer chip, and the computer chip is programmed for this particular machine only to allow it to run. Can you show us how that's inserted? Fantastic. Now before we start the machine, show us where the choke is. Okay, one, that's half choke and full choke. Fantastic. And then back again. Any other particular part of the anatomy you would like to see from the outside? Mr. Ski?
Brakes.
Brakes. Let's slide the machine around there, Ms. Ski and Du, and let's take a look at one of the most important things is the brake. All right, very good. These grips out of the way, and there's the brake. So it's one brake, stops the track. Okay, perfect. Now while the snowmobile's in this position, this is the track. And the track itself doesn't turn. So when you give this snowmobile any fuel, it always wants to go straight. So how do you turn this snowmobile, Ms. Du? Okay, Mr. Ski, is that how the snowmobile is turned?
Yes.
It's only partially turned. The biggest mistake of the novice is they think that this actually will turn the snowmobile. Because if you turn the snowmobile, the ski is still going forward. So it requires you to lean at this time to be able to lean the track, or the snowmobile tends not to turn. Now let's take a look at the front of the snowmobile. Great. Fantastic, Ski and Do. Now, Ms. Do, can you tell us, show us with this pointer exactly where the A-arm is? This is the front. There's an upper A-arm and a lower A-arm, and the shock hooks from the top side down to the lower A-arm. Fantastic. And then the ski. Now, if you need to pull this machine out of the deep snow and you need to grab the ski, you can easily pull like this and it lifts the machine up. Fantastic. Now, can you show us how this shock loads by getting on the machine and showing us how it works? Perfect. And you can see how the energy now is transmitted to here. The shock turns on, the shock loads, and the track itself tilts on its side. Fantastic. Now let's go to the next course, and we'll dissect out the rest of the machine from the outside now to the inside. So Dr. Sledneck here from the Scientific Education and Research Institute with Ski and Do are both here to help you dissect out some of the key things of the snowmobile. Specifically, what's underneath the plastic. Let's take a look. Can you first show us, Ski, where the front bumper is? Correct. And can you grab that with two hands and show us how you can pick the snowmobile up? Very good. We won't ask you to do that, okay, Miss Do? Now, how about the hood? Let's go right through the belly and show us what's underneath the hood. There's no buttons. He lifts up the latches and slides it straight back. If you look, there's a latch here and a latch here that slides on. Underneath here is usually two components to be aware of. There is a belt that goes here, which is a spare belt. We removed it just so you could actually see inside the belly. And right here is the radiator, which is the fluid. These are water-cooled motors, and actually you want to always check your fluid level and to make sure you have a spare belt before you go into the backcountry. Can you put the skin back on, please? Fantastic. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the right quarter panel and dissect out the right side. Now on the right quarter panel, these here have extra holes in this machine to allow it to breathe a little better because it needs the air. Let's go ahead and show him how to open this side up, please. He has one snap at the top, one snap at the bottom. If he slowly lifts it, he can lift this entire quarter panel right out. On this side, the only thing you really need to be aware of is the oil. All Ski-Doos and most of our snowmobiles at the Saratoga Resort and Spa are two-cycle, which means the oil mixes with the gas. So you fill and check your oil to make sure that it's full, and that actually reservoir will probably last 1 or 2 tanks of gas. This is the muffler, and there's not much else over here that you really need access to. If you have a fuse problem when you're running, there are only 2 fuses on the machine. One of them is right here, and one is right here. There, you can pop them out and put a new fuse in if you have an electronic or computer issue. Okay, let's go ahead and close that up. Okay, Ski and Do, let's go to the other side. Now on the left side of the snowmobile, as we dissect open the left belly, is the belt and the clutch system and your toolbox. So those lift right out just like that. And this right here is the clutch and the belt. And to open that up, can you go ahead and show us how that's done there? He pulls this pin, lifts this harness, very easy, and now we have a belt. So this belt right here is what controls from the motor to the clutch, from the clutch to the motor to the track to allow it to run. It's directional. We keep an extra belt in the front, and by placing the toolkit, which we keep here, a little wrench goes in here, spreads this open, you can put a new belt on and be on your way in a few minutes. It's always important to inspect your belt to make sure it doesn't have any frays and it's truly open and ready to go. There is not anything else really on this side that's necessary. There's one small button back here you might be able to see right there that's red. This is a carburetor heater. On really cold temperatures, below 5 degrees, if you turn this valve to on, hot water goes through the carburetor to keep it warm so that it will run better. On the other hand, if you turn this to on and it's warm outside, now you're making the carburetor too warm and it doesn't run well. So if you ever want to trick one of your friends and it's a nice day, you turn it to on, they can't run, you can pass them. Okay, let's go ahead and put this back together. So as he puts this back together, you can see no stitches, no staples, no sutures. He just kind of lines it all back up. And the belt's on, the cover's on. You can nicely close this piece of plastic. See, it hooks here at the top. You'll fasten it at the bottom. Now, while you're riding a snowmobile, there's an ideal place for you to put your feet. Can you show us exactly, Ms. Dew, where to do that? And you stick it, yep, go ahead, have a seat. Perfect. All the way up. Now, if you kick your foot up a little bit, it locks in, keep your heel down, it locks into place so it gives her some control. It also keeps you warm because this area is really warm from that of the motor. And the last thing while you're on there is, how do you put fuel in it, Mrs. Dew? Can you show us where the gas cap is? Correct. So you can fill it with fuel, and you can see the gauges as you can right here. Okay, we have Ski and Dew back here at the Scientific Education Research Institute. They've already dissected out the anatomy of the snowmobile, and now they're ready to show us how to start this machine to get on with their journey. Can you first show us the first step of taking the computer chip and the pull cord, and it's specific for each machine, and she puts it on. Now, normally you would tie that to your body. Okay? Snap it. Now, perfect. Now, can you show us where the choke is? Good. We'll go to half choke. And how about the kill switch? Is it up? Perfect. And the throttle? Now, why don't Mr. Ski show us how to start this machine? He pulls his hands to there. Stop. There. And we're ready for our journey. The only problem is earlier during the dissection, Mr. Ski forgot to rigidly attach the belly and the body fell off the front. So he will actually fail his exam and have to do this again in the future.
The ideal clothing for snowmobiling must allow you to move comfortably without restricting your movement. It must keep you both warm and dry and prevent cold air from seeping into your clothes and warm air escaping. When you dress for snowmobiling, start from the inside and work toward the outer layers. By layering your clothing, you can keep warm in the coldest temperatures and still stay comfortable when the mercury rises by removing a layer of clothing. Start with some suitable clothing like this lightweight underwear bottom and top that trap heat. Next, add another layer that could include a turtleneck, a sweater, or a fleece jacket. Now you're ready for the outside layer, like this wind and water resistant jacket and pants. Insulated socks and water resistant boots are recommended, as are face masks. A balaclava to protect your face, head, and neck from exposure in extreme cold is a good idea. Of course, proper protective clothing must always include a DOT or other approved standard helmet. Protect your eyes from low branches and flying debris by keeping the visor down or wearing goggles when you ride. Now put on some warm, water-resistant gloves or mittens, and you're ready to go. Your authorized Ski-Doo dealer carries a complete line of Ski-Doo high-tech gear designed specifically for snowmobilers. They'll be happy to show you the proper clothing for the way you ride. Okay, you dressed right and you've left a riding log. Now it's time to check your sled and perform the pre-ride inspection. But before that, make sure you know where and how to operate all your sled's controls, including the brake, parking brake, emergency engine stop switch, and throttle. First, remove snow and ice from the sled body, including the controls, air filter, and instruments. Verify that the skis and steering operate freely without restriction. Make sure that you have enough gasoline, oil, and coolant. If not, you may run out or even damage your engine. The hood, side panels, and all storage compartments must be properly latched. Activate the throttle lever several times to check that it operates easily and smoothly. It must return to idle position when released. Activate the brake lever and make sure the brake fully applies before it reaches the handlebar grip. It must fully return when released. Apply parking brake and check if it operates properly. Leave parking brake applied. Put your helmet on and ensure that the tether cord cap is installed on the engine cutout switch and that the cord is attached to your clothing eyelet. Start the engine and check if your emergency engine stop and cutout switches are working properly. Check headlights, high beam, low beam, stoplight, and pilot lamp operation. Release parking brake and check the tail light. Now you're ready to ride. But before you head out, make some important final checks. Be sure that your tool kit and operator's guide are still on board. We recommend carrying these items as they can help in an emergency: spark plug, belt, light bulb, knife, flashlight, trail map, cell phone. It's also an excellent idea for at least one person in your party to bring along a first aid kit, as well as food and provisions if you're traveling longer distances. It's always a good practice to inspect the condition of your sled. Make sure all parts are in good working order. Follow the regular maintenance intervals recommended in your operator's guide to help keep your snowmobile running properly. Do not make unauthorized modifications or use attachments or accessories that are not approved by BRP. Since these changes have not been tested by BRP, they may increase the risk of crashes or injuries, and they can make the vehicle illegal.
All right, here we have Mrs. Du again. We're going to go over some turning and riding styles. She's changed out of her formal lab wear and into almost all of her winter wear. She's missing one very important part, the most important part in fact, the helmet, which she has declined to use as it's messing up her hair. But, so we'll go into the turning first. As you can see in the track, there's no wheels where it can turn. It always wants to go straight. So if you want to turn, first you'll get on the snowmobile and you can turn using the handlebars, but not all the time. That's not going to work all the time. Sometimes you really need to lean into it before the snowmobile will actually turn. And you can see in the footwells, if you have big sturdy boots on, it will help you give some stability and help you move. All right, now we have Mrs. Du again. We're going to go over some riding styles. The very first style is sitting. And unlike other methods of motor transportation, snowmobiles allow you to ride in a number of different capacities. The first one, if it's smooth, steady trail riding, you can just sit, turn as you like, and that's what you do if you are on smooth, steady, easier trails. Now, if the trail gets bumpy, if you're going over logs or over rocks, you can stand up, and that gives you a little bit more stability when you're riding on a little bit more uncertain trails. Now, if you're going along a hillside or where the plane is not even, you can ride side heel, either to one or the other side, to give you a little bit more stability, and then on the other side. Now, if it's very uncertain or you're trying to turn very hard, you can get on your knee on one or the other side, as Mrs. Du is doing now. And that allows you to turn more sharply and if it's a different terrain.
In most riding situations, you'll prefer the sitting position for its comfort and ease of mobility. Place your feet on the footrest with both hands on the handlebars. Then take a comfortable sitting position and away you go. If you're riding over rough, ungroomed areas, you can absorb bumps more easily by switching to a knee flex position or a more upright position. Always shift your body weight in the direction you're turning to keep your sled well balanced. The same riding technique applies if you're riding with a passenger. Both the driver and passenger should stay seated when riding two up. The passenger should match the driver's body movements in turns or over a rough terrain to help the sled stay balanced. Remember to be even more careful when riding with a passenger. Slow down to avoid harder bumps in deeper snow, and always make sure your passenger is wearing the same protective equipment as you are. Practice until you master all these basic riding skills. The more you learn to become part of your new sled, the easier riding and controlling your sled will be. Remember to know your limitations. Do not attempt any maneuvers performed by experienced or advanced skill riders. Always play it safe. While traveling these trails, it benefits everyone to keep in mind a few simple rules of etiquette. Never ride alone. Always keep a safe distance between sleds. Keep your place in line. Don't try to pass while on the trail. If you and your group decide to stop, pull off the trail to the right side in a highly visible area where other riders can see you well in advance and get by easily. Always stay to the right of a trail, allowing sleds coming from the opposite direction plenty of room to pass, especially around corners. Snowmobiles are no place for irresponsible riding. Many trails set speed limits that must be obeyed. Never ride on railroad tracks, and know the local laws for riding on roads or in roadside ditches. Never ride under the influence of drugs or alcohol, or when you feel tired or ill. While riding, basic arm signals provide an effective way to alert others when turning, slowing down, or stopping. To stop, raise your left arm straight up. To turn left, extend your left arm straight out. For a right turn, place your left arm out and bend it to a 90-degree angle upward. This arm signal indicates to the riders behind you that sleds are approaching and your group should bear to the right of the trail. Make sure you give the proper signal well in advance to give fellow riders time to react. In addition to hand signals, almost all snowmobile trails are clearly marked with signs that you should know. Some are identical to road signs. Other signs tell you whether snowmobiling is permitted in the area or not. Some signs alert you to potential hazards, while directional markers help you to follow the proper trail. There are signs to direct you toward food, lodging, bathrooms, and other conveniences. Snowmobiling is both enjoyable and safe when you exercise proper caution. There is no place where caution is more important than when riding on or near bodies of water. This simple rule must be obeyed. Never ride onto a frozen lake or river until you are positive the ice is thick enough to be safe. When riding in mountainous terrain, you should be aware of the risk of avalanches. Avalanches vary in size and shape and generally occur in steep terrain and on unstable snow. New snow, animals, people, wind, and snowmobiles can all trigger an avalanche. Avoid high marking or traversing steep terrain when avalanche conditions are possible. When in unstable snow conditions, travel should be restricted to lower angle slopes. Wind-formed cornices should be avoided. Staying off unstable conditions is the key to safe mountain riding. Probably most important is to be aware of the conditions and dangers on a daily basis when in the mountains. Check local avalanche forecasts and threats each day before heading out to ride, and heed forecasters' advice. You should always carry a snow shovel, probe, and avalanche beacon while riding in the mountains. We recommend all mountain riders take a local avalanche safety training course to become more familiar with snow conditions and learn how to properly use their equipment. Here are some troubleshooting procedures that are easy to perform. Remember that for safety's sake, all of these procedures should be conducted off the trail with the parking brake on. You'll find everything you need to perform these procedures in your sled's toolkit. Everyone should know how to change a spark plug. Spark plugs should be replaced if your engine is misfiring and during regular maintenance. To replace a spark plug, simply take the appropriate socket and screwdriver from the toolkit. Remove the spark plug wire. Unscrew and remove spark plug. Now take a new spark plug, thread it into the cylinder head by hand. Tighten until the plug is secured, but do not tighten too much. Replace the spark plug wire, making sure you connect the correct wire for each cylinder. Changing the drive belt is another simple procedure. The smart thing to do is to regularly check your belt for wear. If you see signs of fatigue like this or this, it's time to change your belt. Changing your belt is easy, especially if you use the belt remover tool found in the toolkit. Insert the tool in the threaded hole and open the pulley by screwing the tool in. This will allow you to easily remove the old belt and install a new one. Be sure that your belt is running in the correct direction to maximize performance and belt life. You'll know your belt is properly installed when the arrow on the drive belt is pointing toward the front of the vehicle. Unscrew and remove the tool from the pulley. Refer to your operator's guide for more details about the belt height adjustment. Secure the belt guard, close and latch the side panel, and you're ready to go. Here's a final troubleshooting tip that can come in handy in a pinch. If your recoil starter should break, you can still start your sled with the starter rope and plastic clip from your toolkit. Remove the belt guard. Thread the rope through the plastic clip. Tie a knot to secure the rope. Position the clip on the pulley like this. Wind the rope around the pulley in a counterclockwise direction until almost all the slack is used. Now, pull the rope using a sharp, crisp pull so the rope comes free of the drive pulley. Start engine as per usual manual start. This procedure cannot be performed on a snowmobile equipped with a Rotax 4-stroke engine. Well, we've reached the end of this trail. We hope that this is the first of many you'll come to enjoy.
Alrighty, so we're back here at the Scientific Education and Research Institute in Denver, and I'm here with Mr. Ski. I'm Miss Dew. We're going to go over some of the damages associated with operating a snowmobile. Now, we want everybody to have a good time while they're out on the snow, but there are a few things to keep in mind, noting that this is a $13,000 piece of machinery. And so, as everyone's out on the snow, we want everybody to maintain good safety technique, keeping these things in mind. So, the first piece is going to be the front end bumper. And damage to this front end bumper, because it goes from here and back through the body of the machine, is going to be $350 to replace. Next, we're going to look at the rear end bumper. Now this rear end bumper here, because as you can see it goes around the body of the snowmobile, similar to the front end bumper, does also cost around $350 to replace. Next, we're going to look at the windshield. The windshield here, if you were to crack or to damage the windshield in any way, it can cost right around $250 to replace. Next, we're going to look at the handlebars. The handlebars, because of all the controls associated with the handlebars, if any damage occurs to the bar itself, it can be around $375 to replace. Next, we're going to look at just general front end damage. So front end damage, including the bumper and some of the plastic around the front end, can cost upwards of $1,300 to replace. Next, we are going to look at the right and left front of the ski and the A-arm damage. So right around this region and into here, this area, because of the elaborate shock absorbers and the mechanics of this area, can be upwards of $850 to replace, and it is the same on both sides. Next, we're going to look at the plastic hood on the front. So that would be this area right here. If you are to damage this area in any way, the damage can cost upwards of $350 to replace. Next, we're going to talk about the missing belt. So that would be the belt that was found inside of here. Let's turn the machine around. Alrighty. So this missing belt in here, if it is missing, it will be upwards of $200 to replace. So, and especially if it's used, we must bring in the parts. So that's an extra cost there. Alrighty, so any plastic damage that occurs in the dash area being here where you see your speed gauges and whatnot and your RPMs, any damage to this gauge area is going to run you about $650. So, alrighty, and then the side foot rail damage. So the side foot rails are going to be right around here. Let's see, you can go ahead and replace. Yeah, we'll just put that. Alrighty, so these side foot rails here, if there's any damage to these side foot rails, say you run into a tree or some other, a rock or something and these get bent in, the side foot rails run $225 to replace. Next is the frame, and the frame kind of twisted tunnel runs right down here. this big piece of metal you see, and any damage to this, very similar to the foot rails if you were to run into a tree or a rock or something, you can see it's in a very elaborate portion of the machine, and it will cost you upwards of $4,000 to replace. So like I said, we do want everybody to have a fun and safe time on the snow, but definitely keep these safety features in mind.
A snowmobile is a machine like no other, carrying its rider to scenic trails and tranquil sunset peaks. Snowmobiles open the door to a world many never see, a world where passion runs free and winter rules.
Make it short.
My experience with snowmobiling has been fantastic. In fact, I think it's a great family activity. We like to go exploring all the trails and have an enjoyable afternoon and enjoy lunch and really enjoy the outdoors. But if you don't pay attention to the rules, as I sometimes don't, been prone to, this past Christmas I wound up with a brand new ACL from Santa Claus, and that's what I'd have to say about paying attention.